Hello, dear friends. Welcome to this first episode of the new YouTube channel called Interruptor Podcast. We have a very special guest today, Hesham. Thanks a lot for coming, Hesham. I'm very excited because we have planned this for quite a while. So, what I would suggest, as we discussed before, Hesham, on this channel, I would like to do things in a bit unconventional manner. So I would suggest we don't even introduce ourselves. Instead, we jump straight into the topic. We picked a biggie today, namely as a spiritual subject of oneness, non-duality. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what kind of knowledge Hesham can share with us today. Let's do it.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm super excited about this opportunity. And I have to say before we start anything that I was very surprised by the topic you chose to be your first podcast. Because you choose a topic which we should end everything with. It's like it's like the main goal which we all would love to reach. It's something which is very hard for us to experience, and I will talk about this why. And it's, as I said, it's like the beacon which actually the light which we are going all towards. It's our evolutionary pulling gravity, let's say. It's something which we all gravitating towards, but it's not something that we are living with or we can experience in daily life. We know humans are extremely conditioned to feel individualistic. We have, as you can see, we know that our bodies end with our skin, and we identify with this body so strongly that we don't believe that we are more than our bodies. Okay? And even when you have a relationship and you fall in love and you have this beautiful couple relationship, you expand your oneness to become a bigger unit. It's still a unit, it's still a couple. But it's still that unit is separate from other units, from other couples, from other things. And you grow as a family, and still you are one unit. You might be even in a city, it's a unit, or a nation is a unit, but we're still building walls around us, okay? We always have this kind of something separating us from the outside, or something separating us from the others, whoever that others. And I think today, especially, we have this polarization in the world, extremely exhibiting itself in racial context, in political context, in a way that is dividing us even more than before. We have the COVID recently, which even added more to the separation. We have got order to stay at home. We have got order to keep a social distance. You see, it's becoming almost dystopic kind of vision of the society we are living in today. So when you chose oneness as a starting topic, I was like saying to myself, oh my God, Jamal chose the most difficult topic to start with. But it's also challenging for us because as it is our end goal, we can use it to evolve. That's my opinion. So I'm a pragmatic person. Even if I'm a spiritual person, I believe that we have to talk to people and think in terms that we can use in our daily life and can help us evolve and can help us, in our evolutionary path. So if you talk about oneness to anyone today, as I said, most people would have never experienced this in their life. I have heard about people feeling or experiencing oneness when they have fatal car accidents, maybe they have near-death experiences. Some people might have experienced it when they have ingested some ethogenic substances like ayahuasca or something like that. I have heard once from a woman that she experienced being in touch and connected to everything while she was giving birth. So the pain of the birth have took her into that dimension of feeling connected to everything else. The rest of us, we don't experience oneness. we understand it at an intellectual level. And I think, in a way, this is where we should start when we make a conversation about oneness to every man or the average Joe, like you and me. Uh, Intellectually speaking, you can. By the way, you can always interrupt me if you have questions.
Of course, this is called the Interruptor podcast, so don't worry, Hesham, I will do that a lot.
Good.
I mean, 2 3 things regarding what you mentioned. So first of all, yeah, I agree what you said right at the beginning. I mean, myself actually, when I went through my own spiritual development, I came to oneness rather at a late stage. And at the beginning, Hesham, I have no understanding whatsoever. What does it refer to? You know, it was very confusing to me. I was doing research, I was reading about it, I was watching videos, podcasts, and so on, and I still didn't really understand it. But until I came to the point where I, especially through, for example, Ramdas, I think he explained that quite well. And other people, such as the Adyashanti. Maybe I quickly quote this little example he explained. Adyashanti said, look, if you have a tree, for example, yeah, and you cut off one of its branches, now it can still survive. Often the branch actually grows back. But what happens if, for example, you take away the air or the sun? Then it will die. So the question is, at which point is the air surrounding the tree equal or even more the tree itself than the branch you just cut off? Or the same with a human. No, if you cut off a finger, you can still survive, but if you take away our air, our food, then it's a different story. So the question is, even though, like you said, we see separate bodies. No, I see you now as a body, Hesham. I see me as a body, as a physical body in this 3D dimension, and this looks separate. No, we look like two separate people. The question is, at which point, especially like now, right now we are talking, no? We have a connection based on consciousness. We're exchanging ideas. And Ramdas said, look, on the first plane, we are two people talking. On the second plane, we, are two people sharing a consciousness. And then on another plane above, we are actually the same consciousness talking to each other, no? Maybe that's, I don't know, a good example to make people understand what this is about, no?
I totally agree with this. I think the example which you actually mentioned about the air and the food was an example which I was going to mention as well. Because
Yeah.
I think one of the easiest way to reach people and to make them understand what does it mean that you are more than what you think you are and you are connected to other things is to give them an example of what they eat. You cannot live and survive. Your body cannot live and survive without food and air and water. Okay, everyone understands this is because even at the material level, you know that your body is composed of everything you eat and drink and breathe, basically. So your body is composed of the flesh of all the meat you eat, the flesh of the chicken, or the flesh of the fruit, vegetables. Everything you eat becomes you. Like the coffee you have drank this morning, the coffee grains are circulating in your body as becoming part of who you are. So in a way, the building blocks which you think you are made of other stuff. Okay? And without this other stuff, you cannot be. And when we came to being, when we are conceived, we are just a small cell coming from a father and mother. And then the mother gives you all this material through her food and nutrition to build the body. So your body itself, even what you identify with, is built of other material. So if that doesn't give you the first glimpses of oneness, I don't know what, because we are talking about a material level. We're not even talking about
Yeah, exactly,
or
Hesham. Yeah, I mean, in that sense, I mean, if you want to take this idea even further, we are all, in a way, offspring of a very low number of families, anyways, isn't it? So even genetically, we are all connected. I mean, we may have different colors of our skin or our hair, but we actually have a common origin as well. So yeah, that's a very good point. It's a great point to start the discussion, to make people realize that even on a physical level, yeah, there is also oneness. Or like you said, no, when you consume food and drink, of course, to some point it becomes part of your physical body, and maybe even more. I mean, that's like a complete causality. No, people, Hesham, try to discard that. No, they say, oh, it doesn't matter, like the little things. I would say, Hesham, and I would like to know your opinion. It all matters. All the little things, like you say, the little coffee you drink in the morning, no, the food you eat for lunch. Everything matters to a certain point. Maybe not to the same degree, but it matters, no?
Well, it matters if you want it to matter, right? So I don't want to judge anyone who thinks that doesn't matter. What I would say is we choose how we live our life. It's a conscious choice. So if I, for example, I feel that my food is sustenance for me, and it's important for me to be, just to exist on this plane, I might want to look at it like a little bit differently. And that we have all the traditions, like the old people, the religions, who always used to pray before having a meal, because they appreciated that this meal is there, and the death of these animals and vegetables also, because vegetables also have life,
Exactly.
and we
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
consuming this life for our own life to continue. So this moment of reverence to the food we are eating, it gives us something which is of a religion. I don't want to say religious, but it's connecting us to what is beyond our bodies. It makes us understand in the moment that we are connected to the food we are eating. We are not just consuming it as a car consumes gasoline. No, we actually consume life to stay alive. Okay, so in my opinion, that's something which everyone should be able to understand. But I don't want to say that everyone need to treat their food respectively. Everyone has a choice of how they live their life. So, but in a way, I want to go back to how we are conditioned. We are conditioned to be more individualistic than any other thing in this planet. Okay, because we have a mind, and the mind is what creates the idea of separation. I mean, there is a lot of animals and insects. All of them have separate bodies, but you have animal packs which actually hunt as a pack, and when they hunt something, all the animal pack eat of the same things. If they're small or big or weak or sick, they share the meal. You have insects which create colonies, and the colony act as one body. They act as in harmony with each other, but they are cooperative, not competitive.
Yeah, but that brings us to the first challenge, Hesham, because somebody who watches us discussing that would say, okay, but if you look at nature, like you discussed before, when you see, a tiger eating another animal, I mean, that in itself is actually separation. No, it's the animal actually killing the tigers to survive. If you take this further, obviously, we as humans, when we eat, whether it's meat or vegetables, as you said, vegetables, it's not that they're not alive in a sense, right? So we also kind of kill them in order to survive. And as you know, many spiritual people as well, they have a problem with this kind of dilemma, because they feel that, oh, I put myself above another being. What would be your thoughts regarding that well-known discussion?
I think this is a very materialistic view of life. Again, I'm not judging it. I'm just saying the way I see it. If you feel that there is a purpose in life for everything, okay? So a gazelle, is its purpose of life, beside living its life, is also to be food for the tiger who eats it. Okay, the same for the chicken you eat, that it has its own life, it has its own consciousness, but also it serves you as a food. Okay, so if we, and I believe we as humans also serve other things as food. We have bacteria living inside of us. We
Yeah.
have viruses who can sort of grow inside of us. We have parasites. So there is a cooperative nature to life, where everyone serves on its place. I don't want to say a man or a woman or an animal or an insect. Everything has a place. That nothing is wasted, basically. So if we see this view, and instead of seeing, oh, the poor gazelle, the lion is eating it, the lion has no option but to eat a gazelle if he to survive. The same for you. You have no option but to eat every day if you are going to survive. So it's nothing wrong with you that you have food. There is nothing wrong at all of consuming something which you need to survive. And you will never see an animal who goes to hunt when they are full. Like after they eat, they will be drinking water next to giraffes and gazelles and zebras, and they will not even move a finger. They will take their siesta and will be happy going. And the animals know that as well.
You
So
know, Hesham, that's what I
human,
love about you. You have this ability. You can take like a complex topic and you can break it down so nicely and, come up with like an opinion which is really powerful. And I think yeah, I would agree with that. Just one example came to my mind before when you mentioned that, everybody of us serves another purpose. Maybe at some point also everybody of us becomes food, because somebody once said, look at trees. They are very smart because when we are alive, they give us, air to breathe. Once we die, we become earth. They basically take this as nourishment. So that's a fantastic way of answering this very complex discussion, I think. And I would agree with that. And of course, yeah, it can become more complex the more you try to explain that everything in a way is related, everything is one. But maybe, yeah, this particular topic, we park it there for a moment and come back to that at a later stage, no? But the last thing you said is also very important, no? That in the animal kingdom, they don't overeat, they don't eat, like more than they need, no? They don't kill for fun. So that's also, yeah, a very, very important point, I think. Whereas when you look at human society, especially in our society, no, it looks like we are over-consuming. No, we take things too far, and maybe we can discuss that aspect, Hesham, because as you said at the very beginning, when you look at our society from a bird's eye view, I mean, it's true, no? It looks very separated. We have separate nations, separate flags, country borders. Everybody has separate bank accounts. Yeah, I mean, there's separation everywhere. Even the capitalist system, as good as it is in certain ways, it also creates separation, right? It creates separation between people who have money and people who have not money, right? You can enter certain places only if you have the money. So, I mean, let's face it, Hesham, we have in our everyday lives, in our society, in the West in particular, we have a lot of separation. No, if you take this to extreme, you see all the wars we have now, the new wars we have in Azerbaijan and Armenia. So people fighting over pieces of land. So, what are your thoughts about the Hesham? And also, maybe as a second question, in the long run, do we have a chance that with time and spiritual growth and enlightenment, that those separations and boundaries maybe decrease? What's your view on that?
so let me take it one step at a time. So
Yeah.
as something exists today, and if we stop our mental judgment of it, we have to accept that as long as it's here, it has a function. Okay?
Mhm.
So separation in itself has a function for our evolution. Okay? And the first function, if we look at the oneness now as a concept of all these gurus, if we think that the whole universe and all creation is one thing, then that whole creation has fragmented itself in so many infinite numbers of consciousness and forms for a reason. And this reason is, in my opinion, again, I could be completely wrong, someone might disagree with me, but how I see it is this reason is to try to build building blocks of consciousness to grow into the direction of oneness. That's why I said it's very hard to talk about oneness, because we are so far away from it. So we are, especially as humans with a mind which believes in separation, we have an evolutionary purpose, right? And that evolutionary purpose is to aggregate our consciousness. And I don't want to talk about this point right now. I wanted actually to get it a little bit later, because this is, in my opinion, this is where we are right now, is to build the next form of consciousness for humans. Okay? But if we look at evolutionary path for humans or for consciousness, the separation outside is also a good indication for us that as it is outside, it's also inside of us. Okay?
Yeah.
We are, everyone you think of, they will believe that they are one person. You know, you are your name, your job, your blah, 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 nationality. But the reality is we are actually, as human, extremely fragmented as well. So we know pathologically, and people don't want to acknowledge this because they might feel that they are schizophrenic. And no, everyone has different voices. You might have a hero archetype inside of you, which only will come under certain circumstances, but the rest of your life you might be extremely timid man, okay? And you might be very creative in certain ways, and in other things you might be very dry. So you have different voices and different archetypal energy inside of you. Okay, I don't want to call it except an energy, because it's really, your energy is fragmented into different functions and different aspects. And in a daily life, in an average human being, these aspects are usually conflicting. Okay, so in my coaching, for example, I just told you about that. It's the most important part is to understand which voice you are listening to right now or leading your life right now. Because in different circumstances, in different situations, you'll find different voices coming out and different aspects of your personality taking over, okay? When I looked at myself, I came up with more than 100 different voices and aspects. And I'm sure this is not a complete list.
Okay? But Hesham, what do you think about this idea that it's mainly your higher self against your ego, like, you know, the ego representing a bit more, let's say, low vibrational emotions like fear and greed and so on, and the higher self being a bit wiser?
I think this is oversimplification, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So higher self is also, even your higher self will have different aspects of it, different voices. So you will have, and the ego also will have different voices. So you'll have, I mean, psychologists talk all the time about inner child, the orphan child, the fearful, they have archetypical prostitute inside of you, a victim inside of you. I mean, I mean, Jung has done a lot of work on this, and many other people continued that work. So we know this is a fact. We know that people in psychology and psychotherapy deal with this every day. So it's nothing new. But to the average human being, we believe that we are one voice, we are one person. And that belief, in my opinion, is untrue. And it's the first step on the road to oneness, is to recognize that you are more than one fragment, and to actually try to get this fragment to be one. So the first really step on this road is to cleanse yourself out of contradiction and conflict, and come to a point where you understand your energy, how it's directing you, and make it harmonious, so you can actually get it together to work for your own purpose. This is the first step. As humans, we look outside, we see the world is so fragmented, the consciousness is so fragmented, and that's a reflection of who we are, fragmented inside. And then we take the steps to recognize who we are as people in different moments. I'm talking to you now, I might have this wise voice talking, but I also have a silly voice and a goofy voice, and sometimes a tired voice. It's not only one person 100% of the time, but my work, which I do, which is self-development, is try to understand myself in every moment, try to understand my dynamics as a human being.
And in your work, do you use like a model or a concept or a method to do that, to understand, so that the person can better understand, okay, this little voice comes from that corner of my consciousness, that little voice comes from the other corner? What kind of tool would you use in that context? Or is
I
it like
I see in my view, I believe the best tool we can ever use with anyone is their own life. Okay, you have already created a beautiful canvas, which is your life, and it is you. I believe that your life is not separate from you. Your life is your extension. It's your creation. And your life is giving you everything you need to know and to deal with, and everything new in your life right now. So let's say usually people come when they are facing some difficulties, or they have a desire to grow as human beings. Okay, and if you use every situation, and you can see if it's a difficult situation, you can immediately see what is the type of difficulties they are facing and why they're not able to overcome it. We can see, for example, how they deal with it. That if there is a difficulty in your life, it's usually because there is a silver lining, there is something for you. You will only acquire and gain by overcoming this difficulty. Okay? And if you face it, you acquire it, and the difficulty will never come again, and then you go for the next step of difficulty and next two. And if you just want to say, I have no problems whatsoever, I am chilled out, and my life is fantastic, but I want to get a little bit more, then you can start to look to analyze yourself by looking at your own dynamics in your interactions with yourself, with the people around you, and with life. And you will find plenty of evidence to support every step of the way. Because remember what I said in the beginning, life is cooperative. Life wants you to grow. It's like it's giving you all nutrition. You need to grow and become a human being, like a tree becomes a huge tree. So everything you need in this moment exists in this moment. You don't need to run after something which doesn't exist now.
Okay, a lot of topics come to my mind, Hesham, after you said these things. Maybe we start with a little footnote, which is, I guess, trauma. You mentioned, people who look for your coaching, they tend to have an issue they need to sort on imbalance. I would imagine that all of us, we have our traumas, no? And those traumas that lead us to respond to certain events with a certain behavior. No, that's maybe probably like an extreme case where somebody tries to balance that out a bit, no? But of course, there are more complex things. There are also psychological biases we all have, right? Like there's a whole list of them. Then there's also karmic patterns, right? I mean, so, the topics you described right now, yeah, I understand that. But so can you give a bit of a framework in that context? Because obviously it opens up a whole number of other doors, no? Like for example, let's maybe do an example. Let's say somebody comes to you and has a blockage. Let's say a mental blockage or even spiritual blockage. So how do you try to break that up and help that person? Maybe you can explain a bit, like on the basis of an example, what's like a good way to approach that?
It's a very good question. Thank you. So first of all, we have to understand the basic of human beings. The human beings, every one of us is conditioned. And conditioned means that we have been programmed like exactly like similar to the computer you and I are using right now. Okay, your operating system is a little bit different from my operating system, but there are certain what you call traumas are basically certain basic conditions you acquired because they contain your challenges to grow. Okay, so I don't like to look at it as something negative. I like to look at it as something actually empowering. You have challenges, and the challenges exist in your life because you chose them to grow in that direction. Okay? So, starting from here, by understanding that you are conditioned to have this trauma, now that you recognize that it exists, you have to understand what kind of beliefs that you carry to keep that blockage happening. Because you keep repeating and you keep reprogramming yourself in every moment. You know, I have a saying like, you are an ocean who keeps repeating to yourself that I am a droplet of water, but you are not a droplet of water. But you keep saying this to yourself all the time, and then you believe it, and then, oh, a droplet of water cannot go so far. I have lack, I have limitations, I have fear because I can dry out of the sun. I have this, I have that, I don't have this, I don't have that. Okay? So by dealing with anyone, you need to understand their script, what they tell themselves. And the script already exists in their external conditions. Okay? So the blockage they are experiencing is a result of the script they are telling themselves. If they are tired because they feel that they are burned out, let's say.
Yeah.
Because they feel overwhelmed by circumstances that they believe they are outside their control. Okay? They feel that they are victim of their own circumstances. And being a victim, they don't feel that they have power to overcome them. Okay? They don't recognize that they have chosen these circumstances. They have chosen these challenges to grow through them. And I think it's all about shifting your mindset. So deconditioning yourself from the old script you are telling yourself, and then finding the empowering points and start feeding yourself these empowering programs. I will call them programs, because in the end, I believe the mind is just a huge computer. And by reprogramming it, you can reclaim power in every moment in your life and over every situation. So this is how we expand our consciousness. Okay? And once you know that you can do this in one area, you will easily do it in another area and in another area. And then you will find that your limitations are crumbling like nothing, because they've never existed except in your head. They are just here. And if you get them out, if you clean your head, you grow.
Yes, I mean, I would even take this one idea a bit further. I would say that the universe gives every one of us certain challenges, no, certain mountains we need to overcome. And I believe personally also that this has to do a bit with like karmic patterns in a way, you know, like all of us with our particular problems, blockages, patterns which are not helping us. That's also a result of, like you say, you know, our life, our path, also maybe previous types of existence. It's a lot more, no, than just a little psychological bias, you know, or something like that. And yeah, I mean, of course, another point you mentioned, which I also believe is super, super important. You said the like the assumptions every one of us makes, no, and that you can also reprogram your mind. Yeah, I mean, I feel that a lot also, you know, when I try to analyze myself, the assumptions, you know, one makes and takes as a given, and then, you know, adjust the own mindset in response to that. That's, I guess, often like a limitation, no? And so what you're basically saying also is that sometimes we even limit ourselves a bit, no, rather than seeing what's possible if we just try to remove or reduce those limitations in our own mind, no?
I mean, we are all limiting ourselves. That's why we feel separate. We are extremely limiting ourselves. So we are basically, the mind works from points of lack and points of limitation and points of fear. So it's always looking at the negative side. That's why we have these biases, which you are talking about. And understanding the biases and understanding that this is the sort of habitual pattern of your mind, you can basically reclaim your mind, take over or take control of what you are saying to yourself, and become biased towards positivity, towards the expansion, towards possibilities instead of limitations. So we can take the direction of our consciousness in every possible and conceivable way, and unconceivable way as well. So our consciousness is so malleable and so flexible that we can do anything we want with it. Okay, and the shamanic people have experienced this, and they have realized this long time ago, and they discarded the conditions of humanity, which is the limiting conditions, and they start building worlds of their own. And that's what we need to do today. First of all, we need to recognize who we are. And as long as we are fragmented, if you try, I have met a lot of people who are trying to develop their own psychic powers, for example, or but they are not trying to cleanse themselves first of their negative traits.
Oh, very good topic. Oh, Hesham, I want to know more about that, Hesham. Right. So you're saying that, for example, if you want to really develop like high vibrational abilities, no psychic abilities, I mean, first you better clean up the bases, no?
Absolutely, absolutely. And some people actually develop themselves a lot without cleaning themselves up, and that's inevitably will take you to the dark side.
That's a top, absolutely. Oh, can you
Why?
elaborate on this, Hesham? I find that super interesting because
Why?
I see that a lot. I see that a lot. Like, people, so they develop certain skills and abilities, and it may even work, but the problem is that their foundation is not fully developed. So suddenly they come off the path, no? And you wonder, like, oh my God, what happened there?
It's not that they come off the path; they have never been on. I mean, as I said, your brain is a computer machine. Okay, so you can program it to. Let's say you can program it to read minds. Just give an
Yeah,
example, and that's actually not science fiction. It's a possibility. Okay, let's say that you are a mind reader today. Okay, but you still have your anger, you still have your negativity, you still have your fears. Okay, so you're angry at someone and you can't read this person's mind. So what do? You go and do some bad stuff because you can read this person's mind, and maybe you try to manipulate them. And you can see this. We know with the shamans that some of them are healers and some of them make voodoo dolls. Okay,
yeah.
so they use the same powers of understanding the psychic of humanity to either use it for the good of others or to influence others in a dark way. And the people who influence others in the dark way are the people who never cleanse themselves of their negative traits. So you are inevitably going to end up on the dark side when you have powers. Let's say that you have powers that you can cause a damage to someone, but you have insecurity and you have fears and anger. You will use these powers to do that, to do damage. It's like being a big bully. And the bully, if he is an angry bully, he will terrorize everyone around him. And that happens at all levels. Let it be an individual level, a societal level, a country level. We know countries who bully smaller countries for submission to do their wills, their biddings. So at all levels, if you need to develop your powers, I believe that we need to cleanse ourselves from our negativities. And that only happen when we really take ourself seriously as fragmented and try to put the fragments together to build the first block of oneness. Oneness first has to be inside of you to be able to then find the one extra person who can complement that oneness. And I would love to talk about our next evolutionary step, but let's discuss it
Yeah,
about
I mean,
it.
Hesham, I love that discussion. These are the things which really excite me. And thank you for elaborating. I think, you have an amazing ability, Hesham, seriously, to
Thank you.
describe it in such a nice language and with such a good flow. I really enjoy listening to you, like elaborating on these things. And again, thank you so much. It's fantastic. For the viewers, let me add two examples because Hesham talked about, the risks of abusing certain abilities. Let me give you a positive example, namely Chico Xavier, which was a known channeler, from Brazil. He wrote over, I think, 170 books. He donated almost everything he got from this to charity. He helped thousands of people in his lifetime. It's an amazing person. Really make sure to check him out. Unfortunately, a lot of his work is not translated and he's not very well known in our part of the world, which is a pity. But if you are looking for someone who had a genuine psychic ability, check out Chico Javier. There's also a movie based on one of his books. It's called Astral City, which is a very nice movie. And basically what Chico did, he was channeling and writing books. And he said, it's not me writing it, it's something else, like a spirit or whatever it is. There are a few other people who are still alive who do this kind of thing and who seem genuine. Somewhere, I'm not sure whether they're genuine or not, but let's not judge here. But yeah, I mean, I find that super interesting because Hesham, I looked into that topic, I think a year ago, because I really wanted to know, is it genuine or not when people claim those psychic abilities? And as we know, until today, there is no scientific evidence that, anyone has psychic abilities. For me, it's a reality because I've seen and researched those people, and there's no way that, for example, Chico Javier could do all these things, or Edgar Cayce. In our part of the world, Edgar Cayce is a better example, maybe, who did the similar thing, did a lot of charity, helped a lot of people, I really recommend the viewers research those people if you're looking for, genuine examples of psychic ability when it comes to specific things such as channeling. And the other thing you mentioned, Hesham, I would put it this way. There's white magic and black magic. Let's put it in a simplified manner, no? At the risk of looking dualistic here. No, I don't want to describe it dualistic, but actually in that sense it is. No, I recommend anyone stay away from anything which is remotely connected to dark energies or, because whenever, I think this is a rule, and maybe you can also comment on this, Hesham, whenever something spiritual is directed at taking advantage of anyone in any way, that's already dark, no? Anything spiritual, anything supernatural comes from a positive corner. It's about helping, it's about increasing consciousness, it's about decreasing suffering, it's about, understanding, for example, Neem Karoli Baba, who was also very well known. He had also definitely psychic abilities. 6, 7 Americans went and lived with him for years and wrote books about him. And he never, ever used those kind of abilities in a way which would be remotely negative to anyone. It was only about, helping, helping people to cope, opening people's eyes. And I think that's a very simple rule everybody can apply, Whenever something is not in that light of, helping and love, it's all about love versus hate to some point, no? When it's not in that category, be careful, because, it could be something that people abuse, and whenever people abuse those kind of dark energies, it can backfire in a big way, no? So, and just to finish that part off, Hesham, I have recently actually heard, horror stories regarding that, where my cousin was like a teenager. He was telling me how a friend of his was experimenting with a pendulum and, was communicating with spirits, and really weird things happened. And I was like, oh my God, how can somebody be so careless exploring these things, without, being careful, because the result will be what you said, no? It will be a complete loss of any love and positivity, and it will go to the other side, no? So how do we put this together, Hesham, with oneness and, and non-duality? Because on the one hand we have those forces, even the feminine, the male, we have those opposing forces, the light, the dark, but still there's oneness on a higher level, no?
As I said, Jamal, the idea of oneness, if we get it to practical level, we need to start becoming one ourselves, okay? And we all have, I don't want to call dark, but we have invested our energy in some not very charitable traits. We all have some anger, we all have some jealousy, fears. And as long as you have never faced this, whatever you want to call them, dark side of yours, you will never be one, okay? And as long as you have never faced them and dealt with them with love and understanding and reclaim this energy, you will be compelled beyond your control to do something to other people. And this something can be a word said in anger, which can hurt someone badly. We know this in relationships. It happens all the time between people. It can be an action. It can be something damaging permanently or temporary. But as long as you have never dealt with what is inside of you, you will always act in a way which you cannot control, because that will be the programming inside of your head which is acting, not your conscious decisions. You can do experiment to see that you are actually not in control of your mind. Your mind is on an autopilot. It generates its own thoughts, and it generates its own impulses. It brings memories to you, and it pressures you to act in a certain way. And that's why meditation is so difficult for people in the beginning, because they are not used to sit still, doing nothing for a long time. Okay? And you can see thoughts come after thoughts come and thoughts come, and the mind needs a lot of training to get into a quiet and calm place, and a lot of further training to be tamed under your conscious control. Okay, so the dark side we're talking about is still part of the evolutionary process. Whatever people do to destroy the forest or whatever, we cannot judge, because life has chosen this to happen, and life is smarter than us. So what we can do is to say, I'm not going to partake in this path whatsoever. I'm going to respect nature. That will be the path I will do. I'm going to respect my fellow human beings. I'm going to respect the life in nature, whatever that life is. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay? And that's your choice. And someone else might have a different choice. And we respect their choices as well, because part of our dark side is to judge them. And we don't want to act.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Hesham. That's the one point I think we discussed it before, and that's an interesting point to elaborate a bit on, I think. So this whole idea, no, like deterministic thinking versus just not accepting but tolerating what's happening, what's there. Maybe the following example is good in that context, Hesham. I watched yesterday a nice presentation by this guy Chuck Hillick, and he was talking about, how it's important to love yourself how you are, yeah, with all your shortcomings. And somebody in the audience said, well, but if I just love myself and I accept myself, and then I don't become better. In order to become the best version of myself, I need to also accept, like I have imperfections, shortcomings. I want to change, right? And this is a bit similar to that example you gave with the forest, no? Like, and in my mind, I still, I struggle with that, because I think, well, if you see something bad happening, well, don't accept it, and also maybe try to do something about it. But you even say, well, don't even judge, but accept it as a given event, no?
I think there is no contradiction in loving yourself and getting better. Okay, I think the idea of better is a mind-generated idea, which entails comparison. Okay, better means that there is something bad and there is something better. There is something good and bad, and that's duality. Yeah. And as long as we are thinking in dual terms, we are in the domain of the mind. And I would say no, we are not bad in any way. We are perfect as we are. Every human being, in wherever they are perfect, because we are not the bodies we inhabit, but we are the one consciousness which inhabits everything else. And that consciousness chooses to explore itself in every possible way. And some of these ways we will not be in agreement with, but we cannot judge it, because to be able to actually make real change in the world and real impact in the world we are living, we cannot try to change things out of hating it, but out of loving it. Big difference. So we start with accepting accepting something doesn't mean that I don't have a desire to see it different. Okay? I accept who I am today, so I love myself, and I see actually every single human being on this planet are always doing their best in every single moment. Our best vary from one moment to the next. Our best varies from one person to another person because we are all conditioned, and the conditions has been chosen by the spirit who we are. Okay, if we forget about the body, we are the spirit, and the spirit chose 8 different billion points of view and infinite variations of these 8 billion points, infinite variations. So what we do, we accept everything as it is, and then we dream, we desire something different. That's the expansion of consciousness, not expanding as we hate this and we want to be in fight with it or in conflict with it, but we accept it as it is, but we say, we are not going to choose this. This is not our choice. We're choosing something else, okay? So let's say that I have anger inside of me. I accept maybe today I have anger inside of me. That's fine. I will try not to act on it. So I will say, okay, anger, you come here, you sit on the table, I look you at the face, I say, I accept you, but sorry, I'm not going to act your way. I'm making a different choice. Not because I hate you, not because you are bad, but because I can choose. Okay? And the idea of I can choose is extremely powerful because it means that now I am in control of my mind and I can receive an anger impulse but not act on it. Okay? And I don't feed the anger, it will disappear gradually. So I don't need to say I'm fighting my anger and I'm going to take an anger management course and it's a problem and it's a trauma and my father caused this or it's the government which is making. No, it is something there, it's in you. You accept responsibility for who you are and for your life and also accept it. It's simple, without fighting.
Because it's like a reality, no? So are you saying that rather than trying to overanalyze, first of all, accept the reality? Also, for example, let's say you have someone who died in the family, and then first let out all the emotions, yeah? Don't overthink, don't overanalyze. Just go with the reality, and then maybe later you're able to put a bit of distance between the emotions and everything else, no? Because I think that's also a very big discussion, Hesham. For example, as you know, Ramdas, he always says that you should have a certain distance between the person, the identity you have built up and your actual spirit, no? As if you would be like in a spacesuit, as if this body would be a bit like a spacesuit and you're moving in this world, no? And he said you should accept this dance of life, right? But let's be honest, Hesham, in life that can be very difficult. I mean, when I look at myself, I try that to have that mental strength, yeah, to have a bit of distance to the events. And if you're running a company and so on, sometimes, because you want to be committed, it's very easy to take things too seriously, and to get lost in that world. And what the funny thing is, you're actually trying to give your best and to not be distracted, but the risk is that you can't keep that certain distance, this mental strength, what you call between also the conditioning, and your actual spirit. No, it's not always easy in everyday life. Do you have suggestions for how one can better cope with those kind of situations?
Of course. I mean, as I said, things has to be either practical or they are not useful at all. If we are talking just at a philosophical level, then it's nonsense. That's my opinion. Okay. So remember, we talked about part of the unity is the unity of purpose. So I believe that where you are today, you have a purpose. And we talked about this, I think, once before.
Yeah.
That if you shift your life and something new happens, there might be a new purpose. But where you are today, there is a purpose. Okay? Your mind is trying to be in control of the situation. You try to do certain things according to a certain book. And that book is a book of law for your situation. Let's say you're running a company and you want to be everything for everyone at all the time, and you are running yourself basically dry and out of energy.
It happened to me.
I mean, it happens to all of us before. At least I have experienced this before. So you can see that because your mind is doing this, it's not in alignment with your heart. If you actually are aligned with your heart, you will do your best, but you're not going to be stressed about what is the outcome of your actions. And you will trust that the outcomes are always matching your purpose. So maybe your purpose is not in running the company, maybe it's in something else. And what your mind say is that if you don't run this company this way, you're going to run to the ground, you're going to get bankrupt, you're going to do this. He's creating so much fears, the same fears which we have experienced during this COVID situation, for example.
Oh, yeah.
The mind controlled the whole world, and we could see what is the outcome of that mind control. Okay,
Yeah.
people were suffering more than they were like getting a benefit from this isolation and the actions taken by everyone. So, what about our heart? So, what if we just do what we feel is right and let whatever happens happens? So, even if we die, the problem that we are too attached to some material existence that we think it's the only one. Okay, and because of that, we feel that if we're not living this comfortable life in the big houses, in the big cars, we are nothing. Okay, but that's your mind talking to you all the time, limiting you in only you will feel good if you are in this situation. You will feel good if you are in this house. You feel good if you are in this job. That might not be true at all. And the evidence to it that you are running yourself out of energy, you are burned out, or you are tired, or you are not happy. These are all evidence that you are not doing what is good for you, right? What is good for you will make you happy and excited and cheerful. It's like we are enjoying this topic. We are doing it late on Sunday evening. We are enjoying being here because it's something dear to us. We don't need incentives to come here and talk about it because we love it. And that's something which you can do every day if you're loving what you're doing. So I
Yeah,
would
but
suggest,
even that, Hesham, sorry to interrupt, but even that, for example, when I look at Georgina or myself, we get excited about projects, yeah, and we love it, and we are really happy and we push hard. But I learned also recently, Hesham, that even then you have to be careful. Even if you are happy and you love it and you're pushing it and you're excited, you have to be careful not to push things too far that it takes a toll on your health, no, and you get carried away and you again lose that certain distance to your spacesuit, let's say, no. I mean, in life, Asham, that can be difficult because when you're passionate, when you're committed, you want to give it your all. Like, look at the language we use in our society, you give it your all. So that means that you want to really do what you can. But I fully agree. The wiser stance is to accept a bit the detachment to outcomes. A nice tale comes to my mind, Hesham, and I'm sure you know that as well. Well, there's a farmer and he has horses, and one of the horses runs away, and the neighbor says, "Oh, that's so bad." And the farmer says, "Well, you never know." And the horse comes back with 10 new horses, and again the neighbor says, "Oh, that's great." And the farmer says, "Well, you never know." So the next day his son comes and rides one of the horses and breaks his legs, and the neighbor says, "Oh, that's really bad." And the farmer says, "Well, you never know." Because the next day, the military looks for people to join the war and they can't take the son because there's a broken leg. No, and it goes on and on and on. So I think that's a very good point you made there, so that one should be a bit detached from outcomes, because at the end of the day, in the bigger context, you don't even know as a little human what kind of role a certain event plays. No, I agree. But let's be honest, especially in business and so on, if you want to do the best you can, it can be sometimes really hard to like have this mindset, and at the same time do a great job in what you're supposed to do. But it's fantastic that you're able to remind every one of us, you know, that this is very important, and also that's what the universe wants. No, I mean, you know, maybe a good way to finish that is that don't take yourself too serious. No, if people, I feel, Hesham, when I see people who feel that they are very important and they take themselves too serious, that's automatically connected to a very, very big ego and with everything else that comes with it, no? And then I'm thinking, oh no, this is not going to end well, you know? At some point, the universe will, you know, give a lesson or two, you know, to change that. That's what I feel.
It is true. I mean, you shouldn't take yourself seriously, and also you shouldn't take the world too seriously. So, when you become passionate, you don't need to do much actually. It's always the mind who wants you to do. And one of the first things shamans need to learn is an art of not doing, is how to not do. Because
Oh, that's interesting.
the doing is, and we do this with meditation. It's our own version of it. It's like we are stopping the doing. We are not really doing, not doing, but we are stopping the doing. Okay? And by stopping what we are doing today, by not following our mind, there will be this other voice which will come and really guide you gently into a different direction. The only thing which is different between that guidance and what we are used to is the pace. We are used to a very fast pace. Ta 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 ta. We want to get this done. We have targets for the end of this year. We have to achieve this by that time. And we are running ourselves like horse races. Okay? For no reason, really. You can survive on much less than what you are running after.
Yeah.
And become even happier. So that's when you are leaving that kind of rat race and coming into the center of your heart. You will be doing, you will be accomplishing as well, but the base will be different. Okay, and you give the example of the guy who wrote 170 books. I mean, this is a huge feat. Not everyone can, even if you are right day and night. So the idea of coming to your heart is that your steps will become more assured because you know that there is a guarantee that you are doing the right things for your heart. And instead of running after something you feel that gave you security, and that's like a carrot always on top of you, you never come to the end of it. Security. When you are chasing security, you never come to the end of it. And you can see today, people who are billionaires are still doing money business. Why? For God's sake. Why? I mean, what are you going to gain more than what you have already? In terms of financial security, you have $1 billion or $5 billion. What else do you need? I mean, you can just stop and say, what is my purpose? And I want to do something. I have no financial insecurity anymore.
Look for, you know what I think, Hesham, because I see that also in my life, you know, those kind of people who are trapped in this weird money game, and often very rich people, and you wonder, no, like they're so wealthy already. You know what I think about that, Hesham? I think what happens is those people, for example, they've learned a particular area, let's say like a particular business, and they get a lot of reward from that, also via money. So they feel very good by collecting points on their bank account. And then, you know, whenever they deviate from that and they challenge themselves by, for example, looking a bit into themselves, looking for more spiritual things, they don't see that kind of the reward. They see it's necessary to put in a lot of effort, to have a lot of patience, to go through a lot of discomfort, you know, so it's an area they're not very happy to deal with. So what happens is, you know, rather than being a more complete person and complete human and approaching those kind of areas, they go back to the game and they continue it until they die. So, you know, feeling good that, okay, I do this business, I do that project, that investment, I made more money there, and they consider themselves successful because in our society, let's be honest, that seems to be the norm that, you know, people like that, they are successes. But, you know, the truth is, these days, I personally, Hesham, I look up to people who have, for example, let's say, mastered one area, but they're not afraid to also approach all the other areas of their lives, even if it's difficult, no? So you wonder often, Hesham, no, like, why doesn't the billionaire go to a 2-year retreat in Tibet or something, to find himself? And you know what, Hesham, there are not many examples of people who go all the way. To my mind, there comes, let's say, Ray Dalio, who is one of the biggest hedge fund managers and who practices transcendental meditation. So that comes to my mind as an example, but then, it becomes rather difficult. But my second comment would be, you could also give a counterexample, let's say Elon Musk, and you could say, yeah, of course he has financial security and all kinds of wealth, but what he does, he actually tries to push humanity to the next step by maybe, developing our ability to go to Mars one day or to make cars electric and so on, no? So we have also to appreciate like that kind of thing. And as you can see, he's not driven by financials. I mean, these kind of people, they don't wear, brands or something. He goes with a white t-shirt to work every day, and he's genuinely interested, I would say, without knowing for sure, I would say he's generally interested in pushing the envelope, helping humanity to become better and to develop to something bigger, right? But yeah, I see that a lot, Hesham, and I find it very sad. I find it very sad whenever I see someone who gets lost in this material world and who's not able to see anything else. Like in German we say Scheuklappen, like the horses who have those things in the eyes that they don't see left and right, and they just concentrate on this. And I find it sometimes sad, Hesham, that in our Western society, we value as a society and appreciate those material things, and we don't appreciate, the other things such as, monks who try to, be better. When you look at India, for example, people, they appreciate monks, they donate. It's part of the society, they see them visiting the village once in a while, they go for advice. No, so in their society, it's part of, the overall structure. Whereas in our society, you know what, Hesham, I was talking today with Regina, I think we have become a cognitive society. Our God has become rationality, logic. We forget everything else. We appreciate robots, we appreciate automation, technical stuff, and along the way, let's be honest, we lost this other connection, to spiritual things, and that's a pity, isn't it?
It's not, in my opinion. Again, remember, I don't judge it.
Yeah.
I was trying to get to answer you, because you brought this topic that if you want to change your business model, you can, as a person who's seeking this hard way, you can change it. And instead of following your mind, you can start to follow your heart. But the person who chooses to follow his mind all the way and become a billionaire and try to replace humans with robots is also part of an evolutionary process. But I'm not part of it, and I choose not to be. Okay, so I'm talking to you because you are interested in this topic, and I said you don't need to go that extreme like that person. You can choose now to run a business, which I would call a purposeful business. And I think there has been a term which has been going around a few years back, which is the purpose economy, that you can still make a business like what I'm doing. I'm creating a business. Life coaching is a business, but I'm trying to do something which comes from my heart, which means it's not about the money. It's about the value that I deliver in the end of the day. The money is just secondary, just to make ends meet, but not really the purpose. I'm not trying to brand it, and I'm not trying to expand it and grow it and have projections and sales targets. I'm trying to make impact. I'm trying to reach out to people, or wait for people to reach out to me and help them feel better about their life and decondition themselves and really see life differently. That's my thing. That's my purpose. And the purpose came to me because I chose it as well. Like everything in life, when we are able to decondition ourselves, we have the ability to actually choose our own destiny. And that's the fantastic news, because it's not
Yeah.
something deterministic that that's your destiny and you have to live by it. No, you actually say, this is what I like, and this is my conscious choice of how I want to live.
I think,
So
Hesham, this is so important, and people forget that. We all have a choice, we all have a choice. We can choose to go that way or this way, no? We can choose what we feed our mind with, no? I mean, there is, in that sense, there is some kind of free will despite all the causalities. I mean, right now, right, you are in control regarding these things, isn't it? And people, they forget that.
yes, we are always in control.
I also
And
like, Hesham, how you emphasize that there is no necessity to follow the mainstream society, right? I fully agree with that. Like, you have your own choice. Like you said, no, I will not be part of the robots, for example. I find that's a very, very good of thinking, no? Like, rather than saying, oh, society moves that way, I have to jump on that wagon. No, you can decide what you want to be part of and what you don't want to be part of, no?
yeah, I wanted to say something about we are always in control because I think this came out of me too fast. You are only in control when you are in control, after you tame your brain. When you are in the conditioned mind, I think you are never in control. You are already programmed to act in a certain way. You have a reactionary kind of mode. It's like a knee jerk. You just have a trigger and you react to that trigger. You see an opportunity, you act in a certain way. You don't have the balls which give you the power to reflect and then act after that reflection. So we can make conscious choices when we have actually awareness, and we can have awareness when we work on ourselves to develop ourselves further and tame our minds. So this was something I just needed to clarify about being controlled.
Yeah, that reminds me a bit of this discussion, Hesham, where, for, for example, I would say, well, I don't follow any religion, I just follow spirituality for the lack of a better word, and it's not dogmatic. But then some other people on the other side may say, wait a second, you say you're not dogmatic, but there are all these things you believe in, yeah, whether it's, for example, oneness or love and so on. Couldn't you say that this is actually also dogmatic? You know what I mean? That can be also a bit tricky, no? What would you respond to that, Hesham, when somebody says, let's say you say, look, I'm not part of an organized religion, this institutionalized organization of religion is not for me, but I have my spirituality. But it's not, based on a dogma. But obviously there's like a belief system. What would you respond to that? I would say, Hesham, there's a self-regulating process regarding that, because we are not forcing it. Look, we are not trying to convince anyone or to impose anything, right?
We are, we are.
Or are we?
I
Or
think,
are
I
we? Or
think,
are
I
we?
think this podcast we are trying to convince others of our views. So I think there is no way on this earth plane that we cannot exchange ideas. Okay,
Yes.
so and ideas manipulate people in one way or another. I think the only difference between manipulating people is either do we want to actually manipulate them for our own benefits or for their own benefits. When you are talking to people about spirituality, you are trying, even if you are not intending it, people either like what you say or they don't like what you say.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
reflecting it or they don't. So the idea of a religion, everyone has a belief system. And I believe that your religion is your belief system. Even if you are under Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or whatever, you
Yeah.
have your own unique belief system within that domain and under that dogma. And you will find individual variation which are unbelievable. Okay?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your beliefs is not only about that you believe in a book or certain instructions coming from a higher source. You are also the conditions which you are grown up with are your belief system. So the way you have been conditioned, the way you believe about yourself, your life, and the world around you is your religion as well. So if you are a scientist, you have a religion, which is scientific religion. It's just
Yeah.
factual and based on Darwinism or based on physics or whatever. Everyone have a belief system because you need a belief system to be able to live. Without a belief system, you cannot create the life that you are living within.
That will be my next question, Hesham. I mean, to which part are those conditions actually necessary, and also necessary to have a personality and to develop it? No, because this conditioning is like a natural process of growing up. No, I mean, I would say, and I would like to hear your opinion about it. I would say maybe it's important to have some awareness of your condition. Maybe when you come from a certain part of the world, or you're in a religious environment, at least be aware what kind of influences you have and which influence your belief system. Right? Is there other aspects you would emphasize in that context? That maybe some conditioning is good, some other conditioning can block you, or not judging?
No. I think all conditioning is just conditioning, and it's not good or bad, it's neutral. It's your challenges which you have accumulated for your own purpose. Now, your conditions or conditioning is different from mine because your purpose is different from mine. And I think even if you are a king and born like to be a prince, heir, and you are growing to be, the ruler of a land, you still have conditioning. And that conditioning is as limiting as if you are a beggar born in an outcast society. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you are born, it doesn't matter what conditions you are, they are all, in my opinion, equal in their own validity, and means that every condition is giving you all the tools you need for your own purpose. It's up to you to say, I want to find my purpose and I want to discover myself or not. Again, I don't judge people who don't take it. It's part of the spirit evolution. So we have talked about this, if you remember. I said to you, at every moment there is a choice which is going for the mind and choice which is going for the heart. The choice which goes for the mind is taking us deeper into the illusion, to explore further the illusion. So we are going to create humanoids, artificial intelligence. We're going to create robots. We're going to create hybrids between human and machines, hybrids between human and animals. We're going to create all these things deep inside the illusion. And then we are also, some people of us are going to go into the other direction, which is meaning they're leaving the illusion to create a different type of illusion, which is not based on duality or on conflict, but based on love. That's about I'm choosing. I'm choosing to say, I'm leaving the illusion, I'm leaving the conflict, I'm going to a direction where I want to create a world based on love. And this is the main point, actually, which I would love to bring home during this call. The main purpose of my life is to have a unity of purpose, to go into the direction of oneness. We know, for example, from insect point of view, an ant has almost no intelligence whatsoever. An ant colony has an intelligence of a dog. Okay, so you can imagine the differences between the intelligence of one individual and intelligence of a collective individual. So to get out of the separation into the direction of oneness, going back to our topic, we are going to cleanse ourselves to find the one who was born to be in this life, which means that we are going to discard all the conflicting energy and unify our energy behind one purpose. This is the first step. The second step, we will find individuals like us who want to combine with us to form a higher structure of individuality. Meaning, you can see in Indian statues, some of the goddess and gods have 16 arms.
Yeah. Right?
I see our next evolutionary step, and I have seen glimpses of this already, is that you find your own purpose and you know exactly how to do it. I find my own purpose and I know exactly how to do it. And our purposes become complementary to each other. And we find that whatever we do in our sphere, we are starting to gain momentum in doing something that both you, I, and other people who are similar to us are doing something which are taking our humanity and our consciousness to a higher level, higher dimension. And that has happened many times in human history before. And it's happening all the time. People who cleanse themselves and come together and start creating a life which is different from the rest of humanity, the masses. Okay? So we don't want to judge anyone else. We're just taking a different fork in the road. And that's taken us closer to being to eliminate all the barriers between us. Remember, today we're still living inside walls, inside houses that are separating us and emphasizing the separation between us. And we have walls not only material, but also emotional and psychological. We keep people at distance from us. We push them far. We reject them. We judge them. And I would love to take my life and my world in a direction where we demolish these walls, either they become physical, psychological, or emotional, and where we can unite purposes for a higher human purpose. I don't know what will that higher human purpose would be, but I know that my purpose for the time being is to unify myself and only work for the things that I know I am on the path of working on.
Okay, so now that's a big one, Hesham. Yeah, I would like to comment on that, particularly with two things. I mean, as you know, I'm generally speaking very optimistic, right? So, and that the one thing which may confuse people a bit because they see two opposing developments right now. They see on the one hand how many people are like sleepwalking, on the world and not working on their spirituality. And on the other hand, you see like how more and more people are awakening and realizing there's more than the world they can see with their eyes and touch with their hands, right? I personally I think, Hesham, we live in a super interesting time. I think things are changing. A lot of things are changing for the better. And of course, we have also a lot of questionable developments which are probably necessary, like you explained before. Things need to happen, as you said. But I believe also, Hesham, that overall there's a good chance that we as a group, like you said, as a swarm intelligence, like the 100 ants together, not only one single ant, as like a swarm intelligence brain, so to speak. I believe that there is overall positive development. There is increasing consciousness. For me personally, Hesham, I would say that in that context, the most important thing is to actually increase human consciousness and how to do it, for example, with things right now. We're two minds talking, exchanging ideas, learning, like making us more aware. That's for me, Hesham, that's expanding my consciousness, listening to how you express these interesting ideas that helps me to, understand better, to close certain gaps I may have had in understanding. For me, Hesham, this is increasing consciousness, and I feel that around the world a lot is happening, in that term, like in the sense of collective consciousness increasing. So that's why I'm not pessimistic at all, rather the opposite, and even right now with all this COVID madness happening around the world, with this imposed separation, right, with the separation physically between people and so on, I believe, what, okay, on the one hand it's a restriction, on the other hand, Hesham, look, people realize how much they need others. They realize the importance of interacting, of meeting, of hugging. So I believe it actually creates some awareness. So no matter how conspiracy minded one is, and if one believes some groups impose that on the masses, funny enough, this also led to positive aspects, and I'm sure that humanity as a group will realize that even further. They will say, what makes us human is actually, interactions, emotions, love, sharing, compassion, all these things. And even to add a little comment on the other thing you said before, the robots, the automation and so on. I think, Hesham, and I would love to know your opinion. I think, look, you can create a machine, you can create a supercomputer, it can compute faster than us. But can you actually create consciousness? Look, probably not in the next 1,000 years, Maybe at some point, depending on how society develops with cyborgs and all kinds of things we can't really predict now, maybe at some point we are able to, for example, create humans, like artificially, and then you could argue, okay, if you can create an artificial brain, at which point do they have consciousness, right? That's a whole other complex discussion, and probably we'll leave it aside to not get too far off topic. But to come back to the main topic, the oneness, I personally believe, because some people may misinterpret also what you explained, in the sense of we don't want like communities like in the 60s, like where everybody, is sharing everything. I don't think that's the idea. I think the idea is to connect our minds, you know? Because me personally, Hesham, look, as you know, I try to live in both worlds. I try to live in the 3D world, right? And to accept the system how it is. And I try to, you know, improve my spirituality, consciousness, understanding. That's my personal idea, you know, like to find a bridge also, no? So it's no extreme. It's not going to a retreat for a few years. It's not living in 3D world 24/7 neither. And of course, it can be challenging, but I think, you know, to balance it out is very interesting because you see, like, you know, things in both worlds. But maybe you can explain a bit more, Hasham. What does it precisely mean? So when you say, you know, the world is coming together, we need to choose love. We need to choose like individually. When we work on us to be good, that's already a big step because that will influence the swarm intelligence. No. So maybe you can break it down a bit more. So my question would be, and I actually had written that down before, Hasham. So how can people actually practice oneness in their everyday lives? Let's approach it very practical, maybe.
I mean, it's actually more simpler than you think. It's if you treat others as if they are you, okay? Just treat others as this is another version of you. Because even if you don't realize this, every human being you interact with is actually a reflection of you. They offer you something that is inside of you, materialized outside for you to recognize. Okay? And if you see this, if you have difficulties with some people, if you take that name of that person and that face of that person and try to put your own name and face instead of it and say, I have a difficulty with a part of me. Why? Okay. It's a very simple but powerful way of reconciliation and reaching a resolution for any conflict. Okay. So that's a simple thing of getting oneness to be practical in your daily life. And the idea of, again, which I said, that we know that we are fragmented. And as we are fragmented inside of us, all the fragments will have to materialize outside of us. So the angry boss is just our angry voices. Okay, the submissive maid or whatever is our submissive nature. If anything you encounter outside of you is you recognize it as part of you, then you have more kindness in how you deal with it. Because you understand this is what people call the law of karma. I think it's much simpler than this. If you recognize that everyone is you, then what you dish out, you know that it's coming to you because you are dealing with yourself. Very simple. Okay? And again, as I said, taken to the next level of the unification of consciousness, I don't know how it's going to happen. And I don't think anyone who I have met or have read about knows about it. I think it's a new concept. And I am myself working on that. I'm myself preparing myself to be ready when that phase happens, that there will be emerging of consciousness, that we will act independently, but collectively. So yes, you will have your own body, I will have my own body, but we will not feel as separate in purpose or in person as we feel today. Does it come in a community living or in a separate houses and just at a mental level? I cannot judge that yet. And again, if you talk about communities that happened before and didn't work out, I think they didn't work out because people did not cleanse themselves first of their inferior traits before going there. So as long as you have your own split personality working and on your behalf, you'll always have personal agenda. And as long as you have a personal agenda, unity will not come at all. So we have to throw personal agendas out of the way. We have to cleanse ourselves of our inferior complexes. And then let's talk about unity. Let's try to see how that will be. And I believe once we reach that point, we will know. So if any one of your audience is actually curious about this point, because I believe this is really our next evolutionary step and something which is very eminent to happen. We need to find these people who see that my purpose in life goes beyond my own self-interest. Yes, my interest will always be served, but I am here to serve something higher than myself. If you think of this in your daily business, for example, in your daily interactions, that you don't stop at your own boundaries, your physical boundaries, your emotional boundaries, psychological boundaries, and try to reach out across the table, across the screen, across the border to someone else. And think of this other person as yourself and be there for them, not being there for them to give them what you think they need, but to be available for what they ask from you. And this is a big difference. We have a lot of charities which are pushing certain things on people who are poor and have no way to do anything except to accept because they are disempowered.
Yeah.
And we are so arrogant that we think we and our way of life and our democracy is better than anything else ever invented, and everyone needs to live by it. But that's not true. Consciousness is smarter than all of us. Life and universe is grandiose beyond our imagination. And if it chooses to go in a certain way, there is a need for it, and the need is still inside of us. So don't try to fix the world outside of yourself. Accept who you are and deal in kindness with yourself and with your own world. And always strive to grow, but not because you hate what you have or what is, but because you love it, but you want even more. This is expansion. It's not about conquering or defeating, it's about expanding from a base of love.
Oh, that's beautiful. I don't even want to comment on that. These are great ending remarks, I think, Hesham, no?
Thank
Well
you.
done. I mean, that's fantastic. I feel, Hesham, we should do another one in the because there's so many more things to discuss, no? And
Sure.
I think this was beautiful, and thank you so much because I think that's actually, a great discussion on some of those aspects. I feel we still have to do another one and discuss some more topics, but I think that is a beautiful, beautiful summary, and yeah, I mean, great. It's exactly, like you say, to try to be kind, to treat others like you want to be treated yourself, to understand us all as one collective. No, it's not us individual entities, trying to benefit ourselves. That doesn't help anyone. And look, I see that pretty much in accordance with the thinking of karma. No, whatever you do, it comes back in some way. You don't want to mistreat someone because you may get mistreated in the future, and so on. No, I think that's a very, very important concept, and it helps a lot in life in a lot of areas as well to make good choices. No, like
Sure.
because maybe as a concluding remark, somebody who may listen to all this, Hesham, and who comes from, like, let's say, a Christian perspective, he may say, well, guys, look, I agree. It's the little devil and the little angel on your shoulders, So a lot of these discussions, they may be in accordance with other belief systems, and that's fine, I guess, no?
Of course, I mean, all belief systems are valid. Everything is valid. As I said, as long as something is there, it will always be valid. And as long as there is an idea in someone's head, it will always be materialized because our ideas are coming from the spirit, coming from beyond us, and we have to accept this. Again, the choice, you can call it angel or devil, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call anything is up to you. And it's up to you what you choose in your life. And what we are talking today is not to try to say that this is a superior knowledge or a superior way of living. This is my own truth, okay? And what happened in the past is some people go and get their own truth and they believe this truth is for everyone else as well. Today we say no, this is my truth and I'm offering and sharing it because you might find something of it which is of value to you. And you might find something of it which you just don't need, you can discard. And by sharing ideas between you, me, and others, we learn and we grow by inclusion and exclusion, without rejection, without judgment. Just say, okay, I like this and I would like to take that flower and grow it in my garden. And I don't want this flower. It's just not my type. Okay? That's it. And would love to hear from your audience if there are more questions or follow up. And
For
I
sure. Hesham, how can they, if they want to reach you or look at your work, how can they find you? Can you send me a link or so?
Yes, I will send you a link to my website so people can find me. And if someone is interested in talking to me directly, I offer anyway a session for free for anyone who is interested, even just to say hi and discuss something. So you can, I will send you all the links after the call.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Really, Hesham, you're a very special man. Thank you so
Thank you
much for
very
your
much.
time. I love talking to you. It's every time I feel I learned a lot. I love your way of expressing these ideas in such an elegant manner as well. And yeah, maybe in the next weeks, month, if we find the time, we sit together for for a second version or another topic, that would be great.
Sure.
And yeah, thanks a lot, Hesham.
Thank you very much, Kamal, and great to Virginia, and hopefully we meet in person soon. I mean,
hopefully.
if you ever come this direction, we can arrange it.
For sure, my dear.
Okay,
Lots
take
of
care.
love.
Great night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.